Reading from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 10, verses 2 to 12. Pharisees came up and, in order to test him, asked, "Is it lawful for a man to renounce his wife?" Jesus answered them, "What did Moses command you?" They said, "Moses allowed a man to write a certificate of repudiation and to put her away." But Jesus said to them, "For your hardness of heart, he wrote you this commandment, but from the beginning of creation, God made them male and female. For this reason, a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and the two shall become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. What therefore God has joined together, let no man separate." And in the house, the disciples asked him again about this matter. And Jesus said to them, "Whoever renounces his wife and marries another commits adultery against her. And if she renounces her husband and marries another, she commits adultery." Amen. Divorce. Is it allowable to Christians? Three different answers are usually given to this question. First answer, divorce should not be allowed, but we know, although the spirit is strong, the flesh is weak, and then God is so good, he forgives everything. Well, dear sisters and brothers, this is an even more hypocritical point of view than that of the Pharisees of Jesus' time, who on the one hand recognized that God had created man and woman as equals, so that they could join forever as one, but on the other hand, they believed that the original sin had corrupted God's plan, allowing the man to rule upon his woman and finally to dispose of her. They discussed only what could justify the repudiation of one's wife. For some, bad cooking was enough. For others, it had to be immorality or disloyalty towards her husband, without going as far as adultery, of course, for which the punishment was not repudiation, but death penalty by stoning. Those Pharisees, as still today many Christians, loved the holy law of God more than his creatures, as if God had created man and woman for the sake of his law and not, on the contrary, his law for man's and women's sake. In other words, the Pharisees' legalism went together with a substantial moral laxity. Second answer could be a firm no, because divorce is a terrible, almost unforgivable sin. This is still the official answer of many so-called Pentecostal evangelical churches and of the Roman Catholic Church. For centuries, it was also the answer of many Protestant churches, including our Waldensian Church. Although Dr. Martin Luther already 500 years ago wrote, "When the grain of understanding and affection has been crushed between the upper and lower grindstones of the millstone, and the stones rub directly against each other, making sparks, deciding on divorce is the lesser evil." But in Jesus' time, divorce did not exist. Repudiation existed, and in Jewish law, only on the part of the husband towards his wife. I certainly don't mean to say that modern divorce would have pleased Jesus or that it might please God. I just want to say that if we already read in the book of the prophet Malachi that God hates repudiation, that hatred is mainly due to the fact that the repudiated woman in that society became an outcast from one day to the next, often with no other chance of survival than that of quickly finding another husband or turning to prostitution. The same goes for Jesus' polemic against the Pharisees. Well, Say what you will about modern-day divorce, it seems to me to be something substantially different. After all, if it is true that God does not like divorce, just as he does not like the failure of any love, who could honestly say that God can be pleased by a family in everlasting conflict, or by the sordid dealings that separated couples often resort to, both fearful of divorce and unable to maintain absolute chastity, or by feminicide, that is, the husband or ex-husband, boyfriend or ex-boyfriend who kills the woman he pretended to love, just to prevent her from making a new life without him. So the moralistic rigor of this principle, only death can dissolve the marital bonds between a man and a woman, ends up corresponding to a substantial evangelical laxity. Because the gospel literally means good news. Is it possible that for those who, guilty or not, have seen their marital union fail, there should only be bad news? The third, and as far as I am concerned, final answer to our question, the one that seems to me to be the most evangelical, is instead a clear and resounding yes. A divorce between Christians is allowable. Let's say better, it is still a sin. Well, let those who have never sinned stand up, but not such a sin to compromise communion with God and His Church forever. Or will we have to adopt the Roman Catholic doctrine according to which divorce is a sin so terrible as to deserve the penalty of excommunication, while murder is not, and until a few years ago, not even mafia association was? Dear sisters and brothers, Jesus Christ's gospel is good news. Not for those who believe they are right, but for those who realize they were wrong and ask only to be given a second chance. Before anything else, it is an announcement of liberation and love on the part of God, who, in order to free us from sin, from evil, from death, and to demonstrate to us how far His love can reach, gave His own life for ours. At the same time, gospel is a call to freedom and love. The most correct interpretation of these words of Jesus is provided by the Apostle Paul when in his letter to the Romans, he wrote what we have just read. Owe no one anything other than to love one another. This too is rigor, but it is not legalistic or moralistic rigor, it is evangelical rigor. The debt of love that we have contracted with God is a debt we'll never stop paying. Yet that unpayable debt is the foundation of freedom, not slavery, of joy, not of anguish, not of death, but of life. Living according to the gospel is not easy. Indeed, it is more difficult and more demanding than the observance of formal rules or pre-packaged commandments, such as simply do this and don't do that in any case. But it is also infinitely more beautiful, more human, more enriching, more liberating, and in the Spirit of God it is possible for everyone. Just open up. It is enough to let the Spirit of God become the Lord of our lives once, twice, as many times as we happen to fall, and we will need the Lord to put us back on our feet with His love for us and for all. Because where His love reigns, everything is justified. Where there is no love, there is no commandment that holds. Amen.